So I believe I'm live. All right. Okay, and all working? Good. Okay, so I am going to continue teaching, and the teaching is about Trump. You've learned a lot from his work. You've noticed he's ill-equipped. Yeah, he's not really competent. He wasn't prepared to be a president, you know. He has a lot of personal issues, and he likes to have those done, you know, so that's what he does, rather than be a president. So quite often he's spending time in court, or he's spending time getting people to do illegal things, special interest things that he has interests to get done, like get rid of all of the history of Obama. Yeah, everything he can do. A lot of time and energy is being put into that, where he could be learning to become a president, you know, developing how to become a president. And you learn that from other presidents, you know. You don't despise them and destroy them and find fault in them. How are you going to learn from them? Yeah, every teacher's got a fault. Yeah, and everybody has a fault. You know, we're coming from a place, you know, where, you know, this is hard. We're building something that's really, 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 really hard. Yeah. And this guy's totally out of his character. He's out of his position in life. Yeah. So what does that do to us? What does that do to the United States? Well, the United States is developed by Jesus Christ. Yeah. I have a working plan that I put into effect back in the 1920s. And at that time, I was ending the war of the First World War. And earlier than that, in the 1800s, I was developing the relationship of democracy within the United States and developing the United States. So we had a civil war and we had many other things take place, but that's because internally, many people were prejudiced of other people because they came from other countries. Yeah, so basically, it was the healing of the nations was happening in the 1800s. Yeah, and it got to a crisis point. Yeah, where it was normal to be, you know, enslaving people and be a bigot and, you know, think that everybody should be a king or a queen or, you know, some kind of thing that you've had in your previous of tyranny of life in the country that you come from. You know, so that came to a healing effect, you know, in the United States. You know, so by 1900, you know, we had cleared the Civil War. We began industry. We began technology. We began the advancements of our government. Yeah, and we began considering the relationship of maybe something like the United Nations. You know, but that was just a philosophy, a possibility. Yeah. But that was in the process, you know, way back in 1700s. Those were in the words, those were in the thoughts, because we were in an international group. Yeah, people that started the government were people who traveled, who went to Europe and lived in Europe and knew other people from around the world, you know, and not just America. Yeah. Most of the presidents, even Washington and Thomas Jefferson and all of those Adams, all those people were diplomats, you know. That meant that they communicated with other countries. They created welfare. And welfare meant that they created trade. They created trust. They created a way for finding out, oh, what do you need? Well, what do we have? You know, how can we help you? You know, the world was healed by trade, yeah, opening up trade. But the problem was that we had wars. So you really couldn't even cross certain countries or enter certain barriers because of the wars. They would destroy what? The trade. And there was no peace in the world because there was no trade, and people were hungry, and people were starving, and people had no way of getting out of that hellhole. And the whole world was like that, you know, up to 1800. And I put a plan to work, you know. And this is a very long 2,000-year plan, you know. America, the whole process, the creating of the whole of the United States of America, and establishing so much trade, because we had 50 states, we trade within our states, we trade outside of our states, internationally, we create industry like you can't imagine. We have steel, we have automobile, we have oil, we have all of this stuff that we're creating, not for ourselves, just for ourselves, but for trade, And that trade creates trust, And it creates peace, and it creates food in people's mouths. It shares your prosperity to go across the sea and become prosperous over there. So we're not just the only prosperous country in the world, although we became the most prosperous country in the world. Why? Because of trade. Free commerce. Compassion, empathy, understanding, high-minded people, that were trying to help the farmer and trying to help the people, everybody. There was an opportunity, that we are not limited to our little village. We're not limited to our little corner, to where we're going to just be no opportunities, But through trade, and then through creativity and industrial thinking, and producing all the things of need, and those become inventors and engineers, and then they're manufactured, and then they're moved through trade. And we get the world that we're in today. That's a lot of higher mind. That is evolution sparked like a rocket ship. Why? Because of trade. Our problem was that no money was shared amongst humanity. No money. Everybody was poor. Everybody was poor. When you got to America, you had $50 if you were rich in your pocket. There was no abundance of anything. Because we're coming from a place of tyranny, and we're coming from a place of wars, where your country was completely evaporated, wiped out. And you're trying to get out of that. You're running out of it to get away from it. That's been going on for a long time. So I created a process of humanity through trade. Changing the influence of money being the rule of all evil to philanthropy and caring and sharing. Moving in an evolutionary way to literally transmute money. The evilest thing that exists. The one thing we don't have. All the rich people got, and all the poor people don't have. And there was a way of blessing it by having trust in humanity and creation and industry and all the higher mind of people having their freedom to do the things that they're thinking in their garage, and things that they're being moved to do to create new screws and new bolts and new cars and new tires and all these billions and zillions of things that have been created through trade. But it first started in the mind of creativity, of the soul. Not under the tyranny that we were at. The releasing of freedom took place. And allowed us to move through this trade. And we became the most financially lucrative country in the world. Even California is an example. It's so rich because of trade. Because we do so much. We make so many things. We're so creative. I mean, we've got everything here. We've got Amazon. We've got Apple. We've got, Tesla. We've got, you name it. The biggest things in the world are happening in this small little area. And that's because of this process of creating the freedom of the third ray to wake up with the seventh ray, with freedom. And in the end, as this thing kind of gets to its point, it gets us to minimalism. because we're healed. The freedom that we received in that process, life after life after life. Yeah? Not being in a war all the time, not being under tyranny every single life. Not being poor every single life. There was no way out of it. There was just so few. Yeah. All right. So we're back. Yeah. So what I'm trying to explain is the fact that the root of evil is money. Yeah. How are you going to fix that? You're all poor. You don't even know what money is. It doesn't come your way that much. You just think of it as a dream. Yeah. You base everything on that dream. Yeah. And that's because it is within the astral plane, your desire body. And it's held you down by all the glamours and in every way of all those people who had all that money and all the land and all the material possessions of gold and diamonds and everything. Yeah? And keeping you enslaved. Yeah? Forever it's been like that. Forever it's been like that. Yeah? Until 2,000 years ago. 2,000 years ago. So what happened? Jesus Christ came. Yeah. Well, he incarnated is what happened. He physically incarnates. That means the blood of Christ is on earth. His heart is beating. Boom, boom, yeah. His flesh is growing. Yeah. His mind is growing. His actions are taking action. Yeah. Goodwill in action is manifesting. A whole new wheel of reality is manifested. Yeah. And by the time Jesus Christ turns 33, he's put through the process of being on the cross, dies, resurrects, completely resurrects, lives again, walks amongst people, beating heart, yeah, flesh, blood. That's what the blood of Christ is. The blood of Christ is that Christ is alive. Yeah? And that living Christ, yeah, is on earth. And it's in you. You can't get it out of you. It's in you. It's in the earth. It's all over the place. Yeah? And it's against Satan. It's against tyranny. Yeah? It's against all wrong and all harm. Of every kind, every single kind, yeah? Yeah? And as long as that blood of Christ exists, which is through reincarnation, through life, that is real blood. It's not like in the Catholic Church, drink this wine, it's the blood of Christ. Eat this wafer, it's the body of Christ. Now let me tell you a story, But the truth is that Christ resurrected, walked away, didn't just up into the clouds and disappear, but walked away. And thousands of people recorded him walking away and living for a very long time, yeah, and facilitating Buddhism, creating the Mahayana, the very foundation of Buddhism itself, yeah. When you connect to any teachings on earth about Buddhism, they come from Jesus Christ. He established it. Yeah? He got it all written down. He established it. Yeah? So that's the blood of Jesus Christ is inside of Buddhism. Yeah? It's in the nature. When Buddha says, you're Buddha nature, yeah? He's talking about the blood of Jesus Christ. Yeah? When Buddha realized that he wasn't the one who's going to create the resurrection of humanity and created a new humanity. It's the incarnation of Jesus Christ that does that. And he speaks of that. Yeah? It's not something, that you pick up in Buddhism, but it's the truth. Yeah? And you can find it. Yeah? So it's the influence, that comes in from Christ being incarnated on the earth. And it's that relationship, the incarnation of Christ, is here in order to defend you from something you do not see, you do not know, you do not understand. So I'm putting a good bit of time into helping you understand. I've captured the devils. Yeah? They're captured. And I'm showing you them as my life goes along. I show you Michael Jackson. You know, you can't believe it, you don't believe it, you know, whatever. I still judge the guy. He went to hell. Yeah? And he's dealing with that. And this man Trump's going to go to hell. And he's going to deal with that. And the guy who was the pedophile who committed suicide is in hell. And he's going to deal with that. Yeah, because the law of love is taking full effect in the world. And that's the blood of Christ, is the law of love. Yeah? I can't change the law. I can't change the law of love. It's God's grace. It's God's gift to humanity, is the law of love. Yeah? But to reach love, you know, is a enormously magical reality because it's the Alpha and Omega. Yeah? It means that it takes everything, every single thing, takes it in and beats it back out. In and out. Alpha, Omega. Beginning and end. Every living thing. In and out. Constantly. And that's what the central spiritual sun is. And that's what Jesus Christ is. Yeah? The Alpha, Omega. Yeah? So, with Christ, with the influence of Christ, the blood of Christ is against Satan. The incarnation of Christ's purpose is to save you from Satan. Yeah? So I did a lot in order to bring us to a place to where we're going to be saved. Yeah? It's all already in place. Everything is in place. Yeah? It's just that the demons have to reincarnate and they have to be dealt with during my incarnation. Yeah? Yeah? Because this is the second coming of Christ. Yeah? Yeah? And in the second coming, you get a much bigger helper. Yeah? Because I'm the helper. Yeah? I'm the guy that helps everything along. Yeah? But it's literally the influence of Christ all the way from the time of the cross to now that this affects. Yeah? So when we're walking into this process where we're voting, you know, we're coming up against a scenario to where I have set up a thing called NATO. Yeah? I set up a thing where we have the United Nations. Yeah? And I set up a safety process for the whole world around money through philanthropy called NATO. And I made the United States central philanthropist. Yeah? That it would pay the cost of any war of all our allies. All of our allies. We would defend them, not just defend them, but we would send military to their area and we would create a base. And we would defend them if they don't have the money to create their own military. Because we've been doing this a long time. It's easy to do. Marines go, Air Force goes, Navy go. We've been doing this a long time. Yeah. And we ended all the major wars in the world because of NATO. Because the United States took full responsibility of every single nation. It was the central one that gave all the money for this to happen. But everybody else committed that they would also give and begin their evolution toward their own ability to defend themselves. Yeah? Not going into nuclear, but going into defense. You should have a Navy. You should have an Air Force. Yeah? You should have a military defense. Yeah? Yeah? Yeah. So all of that was done in the gesture of Jesus Christ. Through philanthropy. Through trust. I mean, big time trust. Where everybody's thinking, well, you know, bad countries want to go to war with anybody. And this is the opposite. This is a country that wants to end war everywhere and will do everything, including sacrifice their own country, to defend yours. Yeah? And we did that. Yeah? That's our purpose. Yeah? Out of that, we created a whole bunch of countries that are very much defended and have evolved. Japan has evolved. Yeah? Australia has not been taken over. Germany is well on the way to a wonderful country. Many, many countries have been given enough grace, not being at war, to go into the ability to provide their own medical, hospital, insurance to every single person in their country. Without it turning into communism or socialism, but just common sense. When you have the money, you have the compassion because it's coming out of Christ out to the countries. And all of these countries, major number of countries, are doing that. Not the United States, but we're in process. We're such a big country. If we do that, it's like, holy moly. And we're going to do that. It's just a matter of time. But we made it possible for all the other countries to do it. And we made it safe. And at the same time, we have China and we have Russia doing all kinds of weird shit, making it very stressful for everybody on their borders, and going out and buying up countries like China, buying up every country, every place, giving money and making obligations, making it so that they can have more and more hold over the world, using money. And Russia is doing everything using the most intense, incredible military force. Tanks on every border, Everywhere it's like that. But it's only kept at bay because of NATO. Because of the belief system that we as allies aren't going to take this. We as allies will step in and do something about it. So just because it's a small border on the edge of Russia and it's a little country, hardly anybody has ever heard the name of. Because of NATO, there's a possibility you may not lose your country. Because that happened a lot. A whole lot. And then all of a sudden now we got this guy, Trump. Trump comes in and he goes and slaps everybody in NATO. And he says, hey, I don't believe in this. This is crazy. We're going to only take care of the United States. And you're going to start paying your bill. He's making it look like, we're not doing what we said we were going to do. This is empathy, this is compassion, this is sharing, it's you caring. This is how it has to be done at these moments, because the whole world is not saved. We have enormous amount of incursions of people happening, situations, creating economic, really bad situations. So imagine Trump. He goes to Germany and he pulls troops out of Germany and he goes to other places and says, But then he goes to Russia and shakes the hand of this guy and says, you're just the finest man I ever met, And he goes to China and North Korea and says, he's just swell. We like almost kissed, And, true. It's crazy, And then he goes on to China. Oh, they're so powerful. He's such a powerful man. What a wonderful guy. I love that guy, Trust him all the way, no. When the virus came and everything, oh, no, I trust him, total open about everything. We're talking about China here, idiot. China, of all people, you got to be kidding me. When we tell you, President, that they are putting bounties on our military in Russia, where could there be a surprise? This happens every day and it has always happened. They have spies. They kill people. They do it all the time. They poison people and they think they're going to get away with it. And they do. Because there's people like Trump. He's just a little weasel who wants money. And as long as you're that person who wants money, you could be corrupted. So he spent all his time doing this last 4 years. He's done this, and he's really made things really, really, really dangerous for the whole world. Not just the coronavirus, but war. He's opened up doors for war. Yeah. He's allowed China to step into India and have incursions take over in the land. And there's war going on in India with China. Yeah. Nepal is being taken over by China. Yeah. In the same way that India is. Yeah. And other countries are going through Taiwan, Hong Kong. All these countries are being taken over. Yeah. These are common, normal things that go on with these greedy people that do what they do. But NATO is what holds them back. And you need a president that stands up for NATO. Yeah. And brings all this trade in proper proportion so that that doesn't get screwed up, so all the nations can begin to build up their own ability for military control. Yeah, and stay safe until we evolve into a more compassionate planet. Yeah, we have two of the largest countries in the world are communist. That's not good. Yeah, yeah, and they are very much the ones creating the biggest ecological disaster on the planet. Yeah, and we're not really helping that much. Yeah. So there's this enormous, whether it be war or ecology or economy, all of that is under the effect of our president. Yeah. Because I set up the United States to be the central channeling influence to heal the world. Yeah. By having within its heart, empathy, compassion, the ability to go over there and provide military might, provide support, provide money, provide what it takes in order to keep the evil from coming forward. Yeah. And keep that back. Keep it back every day in a constant way. And you would be amazed as to the amount of light that can come onto the planet because we live through reincarnation. As long as we have goodwill and action going on, and it has to happen consistently. So NATO and the presidents, I'm going to show you this one thing where we're in the middle of NATO, and many of the presidents are very, we're not ever going to back off, we're never going to treat you badly, we're always trusting us because we're the ones you got to, trust, don't want to give them that ill feeling, so then they'll back away, and all of a sudden we don't have allies. And if you don't have allies, you've really screwed up everything, because then it goes into trade. Then it goes into so many things that begin going backwards. Yeah? And more and more and more and more people suffer, and more biases come up, and prejudice and things like that, immigration. All these things Trump talks about are the surface areas of things of what would happen if it went wrong. Yeah? He's the element, of what happens when it goes wrong. Those are thoughts in his mind. Those are things that he's defending himself from. But those things aren't happening. If he was president and he learned how to be president like other presidents, then he would follow along a plan, that is designed to create peace through the will of God. Because the office of the president is under the will of God. Yeah, and they're going to learn Jesus Christ is on the planet, and he's going to walk into that office, knock on the door, make many conversations with every president from here on out. Yeah. But the key thing is that we're going to find is that the president must be qualified for the job. Yeah, and we're going to see that in this guy Biden, we're so blessed to have him as the guy at this time who's taken over the reins, because he's the guy who set up NATO. Yeah, he's the guy who brought NATO into the world and formed it from his early period of being a senator and moving on into the positions that he had, all those were all in diplomacy in relationship to NATO, and how important it is as a diplomatic reality of all kinds. It's all based around allies, NATO, trust, and giving. Yeah? Never pulling back because of greed or personal ambition or personal needs, any of those things, because this is the plan of God. It's working out a horrible outcome of what could be a massive world war. Yeah? Or could it be this? If we went into compassion, yeah, and we empathized, and we gave, and we shared, and we trusted, yeah, and we watched Russia go down, and we watched the wall of Germany go down, and keep pushing NATO and keep going, yeah, yeah. It changes all of it because it's the light of God, and it comes through the United States, yeah, which creates the possibility of healing the nations, a unified field. Every continent is just like a state in the United States. Yeah? It's all one world. Yeah? And when each nation has its rays, each nation has its ability to integrate. Now, the first and most powerful nation is the United States. Yeah? It has the rays of 2 and 6. Yeah? That's the perfect disciple. That's almost the incarnate embodiment of Christ. Yeah? A very, very saintly being, yeah, very saintly. 6th ray and love, yeah. So it's devotion all the way. It's, it's the destiny of humanity in the United States is to be disciples to Christ, who comes from the United States, who's the head of the ashram of the United States, yeah. And that becomes part of our willingness to think, how holy is the United States? Boy, are we happy we're in the United States. And everybody else wants to be like the United States. They want Christ to come to them too. Yeah? And they want to be in right relationship with Christ. And they want to be democratic, not communist. They want to be Buddhist. Yeah? Not fanatical. Yeah? I'm Christ and I'm not issuing out Christianity. I'm issuing out Buddhism. Yeah, because you got to get your shit together. Yeah, this isn't about receiving, from me and being like the 12 disciples of Christianity. This is about Buddhism. Yeah, like Kung Fu. Yeah, yeah, life is hard. Yeah, and you push through it. You use the force you're given to get through life and turn the wheel of dharma. Yeah. Harmony through conflict. And through Buddhism, you actually are given all the tools it takes, yeah, in order to just turn it very comfortably. Because you're in Dharma. You're not going against it. You're not going this way all the time. Yeah? And now you got to somehow get it to go that way. Yeah? So Buddhism literally changes the field of resistance. Yeah? And allows negotiation to take place and a whole bunch of other things to take place, but it eliminates prejudice and bias. Yeah, and that's the influence that the office of the president, the government of the United States, the whole situation is built in order to create this consciousness, a collective consciousness. Just like if you read the preamble, it's very spiritual. We, the people, in order to form a more perfect union. What? In order to form a more perfect union? Establish justice? What? That's like, wow, That's big. Because you're coming from slavery. And being a slave owner, you got a lot you got to go through in order to get to those words and have those words take manifestation. Yeah. So in the outcome, it will be those words. That is the outcome. It's the invocation coming from God. Those are words that manifest in the future. We the people. Yeah. We create order. Yeah. We eliminate injustice. Yeah. But we have to behave. Yeah. We have to have a certain nature about ourselves. Yeah. Yeah. Inalienable rights. Yeah. what are inalienable rights? They come from our nature. Our lack of ability to want to own a gun. Yeah. Our lack of ability to ever harm another person. Yeah. Our lack of ability to say aggressive things to people. Yeah. Putting people down, finding fault in people. All those things. Yeah. That nature is what is in that natural quality that is invoked in our Constitution. Yeah. And that's how we become, like right now, we're all going, well, I don't know, should I vote for Trump or do I do this? And why, what is Black Lives Matter? Is that really a bunch of communists or is it about black people, and all the terrible things that go on in the world, with black people and all, what is it all about? It's just confusion. It's complete confusion, yeah? Because we're in the middle of the astral plane. We don't know that all of humanity is being saved by a plan. Yeah? And this president is screwing up that plan. Yeah? And my teaching is to help you understand the relationship of how this plan is so well orchestrated over time through our presidents. Why do we have presidents? It's a big thing, people. It's a big thing. It's ceremonial order. When God said, yeah, I'll do this. Yeah, and Christ became the Lord of the world 2,000 years ago and took full responsibility for every nation that will be manifested, where everything of the nations was out of Rome. The whole future was to be manifested out of Rome. That's where it was sitting when I came along. Yeah, and I walked through that whole thing, all the people of the future that would be Rome, Hitler and Mussolini and all their lives, That's the manifestation where we were heading. That's the embodiment of the incarnations that were going on. Yeah. So it's through the influence of Christ that heals all of that, pulling it all together. Yeah. And doing that by allowing saints to build bridges. Yeah. So we build the capital of the United States. We create the Congress. We create a House of Representatives. And saints, whether they be faulty people, drunks, and liars, they're still incarnated, reincarnated people for that job. Yeah? And that job continues moving. Yeah? It evolves, and new bills are being made, and new ideas are coming together. And all of this is overshadowing, under a plan of building America. The Constitution, that means the influence inside your body. What constitutes the influence inside your body? What constitutes it, yeah? If it's the light of God, yeah, then it has full purpose and outcome that manifests in the relationship of betterment for all humanity, yeah? So we're inside of working out of a plan that was just on the edge of all of us dying of nuclear war. Yeah, major nuclear war. Yeah. Now we're sitting going, wow, it's going to be a disaster with weather and a disaster with greenhouse effect and possibly even nuclear war too. Yeah. And the only way we can get around that is if all the nations agree to not burn different things and use certain fuels and things like that create the bad atmosphere. Yeah? And we agree. Yeah? Yeah? And then we go, okay, so now we're all going to agree we as a nation, we're going to defend you if you start to go to war. Yeah? So we won't go to war. Yeah? And they agree. Yeah? So we create this scenario. Yeah? We created it out of being the United States through diplomacy and calming everybody down, because there had to be a way out. Yeah? You can't just let dictators keep incarnating and just beat the shit out of you and steal everything from you and nothing get done about it. We have to stop them, the bullies. Yeah? And you do that through NATO. Yeah? You build up an ally group. Yeah? So now you should be able to see how important it is to have these allies. Yeah? It doesn't matter if we went to war with these people in previous times. Doesn't matter. Yeah. What does matter is that we made them allies after all the wars. Yeah. And now they don't have wars anymore, and they all are evolving into very healthy nations. Yeah. And that's what really all of us are going to come into this. Even Russia, China, every nation is going to have this effect. Yeah. But the main thing is trade, and the main thing is the allies. So we can't break that trust, that element of trust. If you have someone running around lying and living under special interest and committing everybody to hell every time he talks to them, you know, that's not a good president. Yeah. That's not going to create allies. Yeah. So let me just show you this little thing.
Is America's cause.
We will defend our allies and our interests.
America will always act, alone if necessary, to protect our people and our allies.
Still, these alliances were drifting, and two countries were starting to test their weak points.
Russian planes again bombing Georgian targets this morning.
In 2004, NATO had added 7 more members, including these 3 known as the Baltic states. Leaders in Russia became concerned that NATO had reached its borders, and after NATO made plans to add Georgia and Ukraine, it decided to act. Russia invaded Georgia in 2008, then Ukraine in 2014, preventing either country from joining NATO. But those invasions also had another purpose.
You can think about Russia's invasion of Ukraine as a prelude to what could happen if Russia decided to make a quick fait accompli grab in the Baltics.
Russia was building up a massive military presence along its border, and now its willingness to invade its neighbors raised an uncomfortable question. Would the US and its allies actually be willing to go to war to defend one of these small countries? Over in Asia, China developed a similar strategy. Since the end of the Cold War, China has become the second biggest economy in the world, and it built a military and missile stockpile capable of controlling this whole region.
Both Russia and China have developed military strategies that seek to demonstrate to American allies that the United States can't protect them.
They've also introduced strategies that advance their own regional interests, but in ways that wouldn't trigger a US response. Russia began launching cyber attacks all over Europe and spreading disinformation in support of radical politicians. In the South China Sea, China turned remote reefs into man-made islands with military bases on them, all in an area disputed by many countries. It's also issued huge loans and built infrastructure projects in dozens of countries around the world, giving them not just economic leverage in those places, but political leverage as well.
Russia and China leave the United States and its allies scrambling to respond, and without triggering a treaty commitment that might result in their cooperation to defend their mutual interests.
All of this is designed to force America's allies to doubt its commitment and potentially peel off from each other and the US. But exactly how the US should deal with this was unclear. Then, in 2016, it elected a president who took things in a dramatically new direction.
We've defended other nations' borders, subsidized the armies of other countries. It's going to be only America first.
President Trump's view was that many international agreements were inherently unfair to the US, and that the US could get a better deal by negotiating relationships with each individual country. So he pulled the US out of several agreements previously made with allies, and he considered withdrawing from alliances unless allies spent more on defense.
NATO members must finally contribute their fair share and meet their financial obligations.
Trump had a point. In 2016, many allies were still under their spending goals. He demanded that NATO, South Korea, and Japan dramatically increase it or face consequences.
South Korea is costing us $5 billion a year, and they were paying about $500 million for $5 billion worth of protection, and we have to do better than that.
In 2018, he abruptly canceled military exercises with South Korea. And in 2020, he pulled 12,000 troops out of Germany. All this has caused US allies to further doubt the US's promises. In some cases, it's made them move closer to its adversaries.
Even the United States' closest allies in Asia, like Japan, have increasingly deepened their ties with China. So what we're starting to see is a set of hedging behaviors in case the United States does not return to the status of predictable ally.
And now these countries are watching an election that could decide if the US will continue to pull away from its alliances or come back. Trump's opponent, Joe Biden, was one of the most vocal supporters of the US alliance system as a senator and a vice president.
Working cooperatively with other nations to share our values and goals doesn't make America suckers. It makes us more secure.
And he's running on a platform that would pull America's allies closer.
Who's the first world leader you would reach out to?
I would call a meeting of NATO leadership, and I would make clear that we're back.
But the limitations of these alliances are also the reason the US is in this situation to begin with. But how exactly to update this decades-old system is a daunting question. What's certain is that Russia and China will keep trying to separate America from its allies, and the next president will have a huge amount of power over what to do about it. He'll have to answer something that every American ally is wondering. Who does the US want to be in the world?
That's a good question. Yeah, so so you can see, that the process of America's relationship through the Christ influence of being in a state of philanthropy, that's what's been pushed. Roosevelt, Truman, every president has been ushered through this process of diplomacy to develop NATO and to better understand why war happens, and how to keep, certain dictators and others out of being in charge and having countries fall under them, just like what's happening right now. Right now we have many countries are falling closer and closer to the side of China, and a lot of countries are connecting in with Russia, to buy all kinds of productive, destructive ways of doing things that are illegal. Because when you're out of NATO and when you're out of the law processes of how things run, then this can get pretty hairy, and things are happening behind the scene, and corruption is built up even more and more. So NATO is designed in order to help create a way to oversee how things are done, how people are doing what they're doing economically, because there's a lot of money going into this, and its misuse. It needs to develop the country, not to develop individuals, and not to make people just dependent upon the United States and never do anything, but to create a safe haven in the world so that people can evolve for a period of time, and slowly but surely they will begin their process of restructuring, and it won't all be on America. But this isn't a way that Trump could think. He is not at all in that state of consciousness. He just thinks everybody's an idiot, and he gets angry at him, and, he just thinks that they're ripping people off, so there's a lot going on in the relationship to Trump, and there's a lot going on in relationship to Trump and God. So there's a lot of people that are aware of the fact that he wouldn't be president if it wasn't for the religious groups who wrote books and created a large mass process of believing that Trump was sent by God as a prophet, and that he's incarnated to be president and save the world, and that for him to be in that office and do things they thought he would do, which he didn't do, but if he was to do the things they thought a prophet was going to do, it would make way for the coming of Christ. That was their belief. It also meant, too, that they would better deal with the nuclear war that was about to happen, because that was also part of their belief system. So putting someone like Trump in there certainly puts us on the edge of a nuclear war. But the biggest thing is that this guy and that religious group created the ability for Trump to take office. Yeah, it was that particular thing that did it. Yeah. So recently, the one who was the head of that group, that religious group that put him into office, over the last 4 years has had an epiphany. He has realized that Trump is the devil, and that he no longer is part of the group, and he's on the other side, and he's telling everybody that you've all made a deal, a Faustian deal, with the devil. And now you've become a cult under the influence of one person. Yeah. So he's out telling that. Yeah. So let me give that to you. It's nice. Crazy world.
In 2016, 80% of evangelical voters cast a ballot for Donald Trump. And despite the more lurid events of his first term, President Trump still enjoys a 72% approval rating amongst evangelicals.
I dominated with the evangelicals. A lot of people were surprised.
But that support is sagging, if only slightly. Rob Schenck has been one of the country's most effective and notorious political evangelicals. A fire-breathing anti-abortion activist, Schenck fought alongside infamous Alabama Judge Roy Moore, blocked access to abortion clinics, and, with an office on Capitol Hill, spent decades lobbying Republican senators and presidents. But Schenck recently shocked his former comrades by softening his strident message and excoriating them for making what he sees as a Faustian bargain with Donald Trump. And he's urging evangelicals to not only abandon the president, but to embrace his Catholic pro-choice opponent. You're partially to blame. Were you part of a movement that sets, way of speaking that became standard with Republicans?
I certainly fostered the culture that we now see embracing Donald Trump and championing Donald Trump sycophantically. I used fear-mongering. I preached hundreds of sermons in which I painted Democrats, whom I at times referred to as Democrats. I sat in many strategy meetings, particularly with fundraisers, who would say, "Give me more fear and more anger. We should have never done it. It should have never happened. That is the politicization of American evangelicalism. We should have never gotten in bed with the Republican Party." The history of politicizing religion is from bad to absolutely disastrous. And we are living through it now. In fact, I do wonder sometimes if American evangelicalism will survive this.
I mean, this is something you dedicated your life to, and you are questioning right now whether that thing survives. And, sorry to be so blunt about it, but what was it all for?
We've got a few federal judges. We've got public rhetoric that goes something like, now you can say Merry Christmas again, and no one will scowl at you. Now, some will say to me, no, but you don't understand, with the policies that are in place, eventually we will have fewer abortions while we have children dying in cages on the southern border. How many 14-year-olds and 9-year-olds will you trade for some newborns? That's untenable. Absolutely untenable.
Was that the moment with Donald Trump where you said, this has gone too far?
For me, it unfolded over, at least a few years. I had to walk away from the organization I spent 30 years building from scratch. As soon as I came out against Donald Trump, I was no longer invited to a pulpit, and that was my main source of recruiting financial donors for the organization. Money is used to control our voices. I can't tell you how many major donors sat down with me and said, you go against Donald Trump, I'm withdrawing all my financial support.
This happened to you?
This happened to me.
But you went against Donald Trump?
I did. I think my colleagues would like to say some of the things that I'm saying now about Donald Trump, but they can't risk $100 million a year budget.
But they risk something else.
They certainly risk their integrity, their inner peace, and very often their families. Very often. And that's tragic. So there's a lot placed at the altar of Donald Trump. We just heard the Republican National Convention said we don't have policies anymore. We have no platform. It's whatever Donald Trump feels like doing today, this afternoon, tonight, tomorrow, Friday. It's all him. That's exceedingly dangerous. To me, that's the definition of a cult. What you have in the Republican Party now is a religious cult. If you look at the Democratic Party, its policies are far more consistent with what I call Sermon on the Mount and Matthew 25 priorities.
Because you're, I mean, to be clear about this, you're very much in the minority.
We're always going to be in the minority, but minorities can do very important things in a democracy. It just takes a small number of evangelicals to make a very big change in this election. We need to vote what is right and good, regardless of party label. We need to do the most amount of good for the most amount of people in the most amount of ways for the most amount of time. That's why, for the first time in 44 years, I will vote for a Democrat for president.
Yeah, so should you. So there's, that's a lot. Yeah, imagine a whole party. You have the Democrats and you have the Republicans. This man has the ability to possess millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of people in the United States. Possess them to a cult-like thought form. If you ask them questions, they talk to you exactly the way a cult member would. They can't speak for themselves. They have to repeat what he says. Yeah, and then they just look with a real dumb look on their face, as to I can't explain why. I just do. No matter what you say, I believe in him. I'm going to vote for him. Yeah, it's not just fanaticism. It's possession. Who can do that? When do we know of any president, any religious figure, anybody that's ever done such a powerful thing? Openly, you can see it. Massively, people going at war in streets. Yeah? And we can't even see the man for who he is, and he lies all the time. All the news has got to say is, holy crap, Is he ever going to tell the truth? But yet, he is psychically possessing the solar plex, the personality of our nation. Our nation is a 2-6. It's a 2-6. Yeah. Every living person who lives in the United States is dominated by those race, 2 and 6. Dominated. It's you choose to be in America. Yeah. And you're an American. Yeah. And that influence of the rays of our nation influences us to become who we are. That's why we're going to be such great people. That's why we're going to build temples, and that's why we're going to live in such a wonderful way and heal the world and bring about peace on earth. Yeah. Because we're saints. Yeah. Masses of saints. Yeah. But that sixth ray right now is being used by the personality influence of our nation. Nation has a soul, nation has a personality. So if we take our nation and take the weakest within our nation, they would be expressing the weak side of a 2-6. And those are all the things that those people are saying. Yeah. all the things that he says, all come from expressions of the weak side of the combination 2-6. Yeah, symptomatically, it's very rare to come out of any other rays. 5th ray, 7th ray, 4th ray, 3rd ray. Nope. 2-6 is the one that pulls off what they're saying and why they're saying it. Yeah, distrust and prejudice and bias and crazy illusions of the world is going in this way and conspiracies all over the place and 2-6, 2-6, 2-6, 2-6. Yeah, we're a nation of conspiracy. Roswell, yeah, Area 51, we're nuts over it. Yeah, because we're 2-6. We want to uncover the truth. Yeah, we make movies to do that. We do all kinds of things to unveil the truth. Yeah, that's our nation. That's our 2-6. That's the soul personality side of the 2-6. Yeah, but he's weakening people to express the weakest side of that same 2-6, which means that they would be like many people in America, Bhagwan devotees, yeah? Or the guy who took everybody to Africa and killed them all. Or the other guy in New Mexico or some other place where gave people drugs and they all just die. Yeah? All these cults, one after another, all over the United States. Yeah? Because we have a 2-6. We're religiously oriented. Yeah, we're looking for God. Yeah, and we're being abused and used. We got it everywhere. Yeah, much of our nation was established by people, pilgrims, 2-6. Yeah, set feet on this place first. Yeah, then come Mormons, and then comes boom, 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 boom. Yeah, all the 2-6, both positive and negative, is what's going on. And right now, we are in the dweller on the threshold of America. The dweller on the threshold as a nation. Yeah, we are a collective body. Yeah, over 320 million people. Yeah, and there's less than 1/3, I believe, are possessed. Less than 1/3 are possessed. Now, the reason why he got in is because the majority of the possessed ones, which were religious zealots already in their own cult, took him and furthered that psychic energy through prayer and Luciferian contact. Yeah, through channeling. They surrounded him in the office. Yeah, they surrounded him with books and information and belief systems. Yeah, creating an enormous channel of a lot of energy going into this person, but it's all coming from Lucifer. Yeah, and it's all manifesting into him, and he's going to use it exactly the way he wanted it, because he set it up for this to come to him this way. Yeah, and it did, and now we're in the middle of it. And how many of this nation, 320 million people, they don't have to be on YouTube, for me to bless these people, and change this thing. Yeah. So 2 weeks before your election, I stop eating. Yeah, I fast. Yeah, and there's no suffering in my relationship to fasting. Yeah, it's we actually live by fasting. Yeah, that's our truth. Yeah, 80% of our life is fasting. Yeah, not just 2% fasting. Yeah, but 80% is fasting. So it's very natural, and it's what gives us longevity, allows us to live hundreds of years. Yeah, but we'll get to that. Yeah, everybody's based on this 2-6, scary shit, don't know what to do, so everybody's jumping in and out of diets and has all kinds of ridiculous habits. So it's going to take a while to help people get to fasting. Yeah, so by me fasting, it's not a sacrifice in the way that you might look at it. Yeah, but it is an anointment. Yeah, it allows me to heal the blood that's inside of me. and release it, any impurities that are coming from this world, this nation, this food, or anything on it, that can come through me, through food, any other way, yeah? I limit it down to the very minutest small amount, and bless it, drink it, enjoy, yeah? And then I radiate more, yeah? And it becomes very potent after a period of time, yeah? And that affects the earth. It affects the energy of 2-6, yeah? Because it's your will, yeah? The only thing that allows your will, yeah, to do anything of right nature, the quality of your second initiation moving to your third initiation, is the raise 2-6, yeah? And that's when you become a nun and a monk, yeah? And that process becomes your nature, because you've stepped into your evolution. Now you're like what you would be if you were 21 years old, you know, and you were in a world of sacredness. You know, at your 14th birthday, you enter into the second initiation, you know. So at that time, you're very well aware that you're a monk or a nun, you know, and that you're very much vibrating in those thought forms and everything, yeah. And that's channeling out into the world. That's a natural influence, yeah. But on the glamour side, that same 2-6 could be all kinds of weird prejudices and strange things, totally makes a person impure, and then they don't think that they're the value, the quality of a spiritual person to become a monk or a nun because of their impurities, yeah. And oh boy, you know, what a burden I would be to anybody, you know, if anybody even knew me, yeah. But that's what this is about, is purifying, yeah. So this 2-week period of my fasting is going to radiate a lot of energy, yeah, into the process of Mr. Trump, yeah. Because I have the ability, I have this funny little ability to walk in to another person's shoes, yeah. I can taste Trump. I can taste him. I can see through his eyes, yeah. I can smell what he smells, yeah. I can feel the people he's talking to and the thoughts that are moving through his head, yeah. That almost makes me cough, you know. It's a dense process. I don't allow myself to do any of that, yeah. But when I begin purification, you know, I can go into this mirror process of meditation where I can defeat a demon, you know, that I know exists on earth, yeah. And in that, the outcome is quick, and it is a collective consciousness, yeah. It's not the demon who falls and dies and goes through this horrible event, but it's the process of humanity that takes away their devotion to the demon. The 6th ray goes up. And when that happens, the demon just deflates. All the delusions of grandeur leave the mind of the demon. And they no longer think that they are capable of being this kind of person. And, you know, where was I thinking? You know, where am I? What am I doing? Yeah? Because it's all a concrete agreement, like a contract with the devil. Yeah? The whole of a person's character, the way they think and how they think and what they want to dress and what they want to do, is all a contract people make in the process of their lower nature. Yeah, it's very difficult to get out of that, really difficult, yeah. So this process, this meditation, this 2-week period that you call, you know, voting for the president, I'm going to do an exorcism. And that process is going to bring about a lot of energy into not just Mr. Trump, but into the entire building of Washington. Yeah? Yeah? Because Washington isn't what people think it is. Yeah? Washington is the embodiment of the incarnation of George Washington. The embodiment. Yeah? It's literally Washington's embodiment. Yeah? His whole character, his whole being, his whole defense mechanism, his ability to be in charge of the military, ability to run a country, his ability to join together people his ability to let go of the office and allow others to step into such a big position. Once you've been a king, you never want to not be a king, because what are you going to do now? Go sit at your porch, and what are you going to do? It could almost drive you nuts. But when you're Washington and you're enlightened and you got all kinds of previous good incarnations of saintly nature with both hundreds of thousands of other people in the world who have the same level of loving kindness in their being, it was that embodiment that created the United States, the capital of the United States, and Washington. Yeah. So now we have all these people that come to play these roles, in this place, because they were embodiments of the same people during the time of Washington. Yeah. And in that process, we take turns. We come back around. We move through this thing, and we keep the principles in state. Yeah, there are laws and Bill of Rights and certain principles that are laid upon this situation so that when people come in, they can recapitulate and they could raise it back up and they could solve the biggest problem, which is world peace, out of a building. Yeah, it's almost impossible, but it's almost like a monastery sitting there, and it's a place of worship. Yeah. And it's a place of study and attitude, and service on the highest level, And that's what this is going to do. This 2-week process, I'm not just going to deal with him, but I'm going to anoint the office. I'm going to anoint every person who plays a part in Washington, and have that radiate out into the mayors, into the police, into the firemen, into every living person who's in service, who works within this system. Once you step into the way the governing body actually is facilitating life, then you embody the light that allows it to move, rather than sitting in a place to where you're not a part of that open-hearted service. Many people didn't vote. A lot of people, almost 60% of all the people who should vote voted last time. Only 60%. A lot of black people just simply didn't vote. And many presidents before that, they never voted. Indians, they don't get the opportunity. So they can't vote. And they're not even there. Immigrants, Mexicans, the amount of pressure, whether or not you're legal or not, yet they live in America. They're the part of the 320 million people here. They should vote. If you're here, you should vote. Doesn't matter about anything else. We need everybody to vote. Because we all, in a sacred world, we play a part. And if we vote, we are playing the most powerful part of transmission of the will of God. But when we're in a state of inertia and we have no idea who that president candidate is, I never heard of this guy before. I don't know what's going on. I'm not interested in politics. I don't know anything about it. That's the way it's been for a long time. I'm going to do everything I can to change that. Because we need to become a sacred world. To be a sacred world, we have to have rays in our nations. We have to have rays manifested in everything that are in our world. And it turns sacred. To start that, we have to trust, how this thing is put together. So I'll show one more thing. Not that one. Oh, I did. I already did. Yeah, it was the Faustian one. I thought that was great. So one of the processes of healing our reality of having so much of dictators of previous incarnations coming back around, it's the process of being able to surface the amount of collective consciousness, and not just individuals, but on a mass level. Yeah. So in setting up this system, setting up the pyramid and setting up Shambhala, setting up the tools and everything, and putting out the music, if you listen to my music, it's not like anything you've ever heard. Yeah. Because I'm literally talking directly from the seat of the throne of God. Yeah. I'm not messing around with it. You know, I'm spontaneously where I'm at. Yeah. All the time where I'm at. You know, I'm right there with God. Yeah. And this is what we're saying. Yeah. I am co-creating, and I'm the one with the mouth. I'm the one with the body. Yeah. I'm the one who's incarnated. So I'm fully responsible for getting this on earth. Yeah. And then putting it into the pujas and putting it into the invocations, if you listen to those things, they are the embodiment of everything that wipes away all the glamours that have created harm in the world. Yeah, and nobody has to go through an awakening, epiphany, or anything like that and make major changes. It gets easier and easier and easier as time goes on, because the science of invocation, the fact that I'm physically incarnated and you can hear my words in my voice and be stimulated by that reality, yeah, that changes a course of whether or not we're in a third initiation or have received a fourth initiation. To receive my words, to hear my words, it requires a third initiation. Yeah. So I had to do all of this while everybody is in probationary path. Yeah. And Tibetans are being annihilated by false prophets. Yeah. And the Pope is running around with homosexuals everywhere under the guise of being God, Lucifer. Yeah. All this is in a state of manifestation. That creates an unsacred planet, let alone sacred. Not just a planet with animals on it doing their shit, you know. But it's got human beings on it channeling fallen angels. Yeah. That are confused in every possible manner. Yeah. Because of the rays that are passing through them. So setting up this pyramids and setting up everything that I do and all the tools and putting the invocations into it, I'm literally invoking the throne seat of God on earth. Here I'm sitting, you know. I'm sitting here. I'm talking here on earth, yeah, where everybody's going, oh, Jesus, you know, right there in heaven, you know, where you are all the time, you know. Sitting up there in heaven, you know. I wish you'd bless me down here, you know. Well, the fact is that worked. The invocations and prayers and the actions and the love of humanity made it possible for this cycle to come about. Yeah. So this is the second coming. Yeah. And in that second coming, it's a raising up of humanity, because I'm literally giving humanity 3 initiations, yeah, without having to go through no process of becoming monk or nun or anything like that. I'm doing it on my own, yeah. I'm going through my own life cycle, yeah, and I lift everybody up in that, and I look out at everybody beyond who they are, yeah, and you cannot imagine what that's like. Because people are so dense and they're so angry and they're so upset, and they do things in spontaneous ways that can really, really, really mess you up. Yeah. But I see beyond that. And seeing beyond that, the invocation comes in and the person goes into the transition. They receive all 3 initiations in a life cycle. Yeah. Because they're overshadowed. Yeah. So all this stuff that I'm doing, putting the tools out, making my pyramid and allowing people to be in darshans and receive these teachings, is a process of bringing together that overshadowing. Because everybody is being born into the reality of a world that is third degree. Not a world that's unsacred, full of demons and ready to take on war and, you know, all kinds of horrible things. Nope, I don't see it that way. Not at all. Nope. Nope, sorry. Don't see it that way. Not at all. Yep, I see the demon. Trust me, I see the demon, but I do not see the effect. Yeah, the effect that happens from the demon happens because of ignorance. Now, I don't have ignorance, so I'm literally holding the demon, and the effect of the demon doesn't happen. Yeah, it just becomes something totally different. Even the demon is totally surprised, like Michael Jackson. Yeah, imagine Hitler turning into a black man. Ooh, what a surprise. Yeah, yeah, what a surprise. Yeah. But he fought that. He went out white. Yeah. You know. So, I mean, I'm telling you, in this material world, yeah. Yeah, having control over it. Yeah. Yeah. So healing that process is what's going on by my creating a planetary ashram. Yeah. Without anybody being invited. Yeah. Without anybody saying, oh, yeah, I want to do that, you know. Yeah, nope. Yeah, I just did it on the etheric plane, using the etheric field and setting up an etheric bridge, using all the energy of my past lives and building all the temples that I've done over hundreds of thousands of years. Yeah, all that gets recapitulated by me being here. And then putting these things out, all those things start to wake up. They all start to be stimulated. And that stimulates you. You may walk around them going, oh, you know, I don't know what that pyramid's about. It's big. Yeah. But it's radiating. You don't know it. Yeah. And it's putting out more energy. And over here in Malaysia and Asia and India and all these different places and all throughout America are all these sacred zones and energies that are being awakened. Yeah. And that's stimulating because I put these tools out and I'm doing these pujas and I'm giving these teachings. Yeah, it stimulates a time where the planet was sacred. So we're recapitulating. Yeah, we're coming out of, you know, what you can't see. Yeah, because I'm overshadowing you with the third initiation. Yeah, you're not building the pyramids. I did. Yeah, you don't have Vajras, and you're not saying Vajra. You're not saying Dharma. You're not Buddhist in that way. Yeah, yeah. But in time comes on, you will be. Yeah? And you'll see things, Vajra, you'll see Dorje, you'll see things that make manifest from on high. Yeah? And they'll be a part of your reality. Yeah? And we'll move in life in ways that we've never done before because we're starting over again. Yeah? Every single thing is going to be starting over again as of 2050 on. Yeah? Because the incarnations of these demons are stopping. When they return, they come back so small, so weak, and so incompetent in relationship to the power they had in their previous life that they can't do hardly anything in that life other than begin their process of working toward the light. Yeah? And it may take 80 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years for them to finally get to a place to where their glamours are less and less and less. But it's likely they're going to be the most perverted person on the planet, you know, till the day they die. Yeah, because that's just what they are. Yeah, just what they are. Yeah. But our compassion and our worldly view is going to make it possible for these people to live, incarnate, and die without fostering their perversions in the world because of their psychicism and our lack of ability to not be under control of those psychic influences, their perversions and their desires and their manipulative, you know, energy. Yeah, because I'm overshadowing you with grace. Yeah. All right, so let's do a prayer. Okay, repeat after me. Lord Jesus the Christ, thank you for bringing me here. Lord Jesus the Christ, I open my heart today. I invite you to come inside. Lord Jesus the Christ, save my life. Receive me today as a child of God. Forgive all my sins and write my name in the book of life. I give myself to you, my spirit, my soul, my body. Receive me, Jesus the Christ. Now, devil, the blood of Jesus the Christ is against you. I command you now to leave me. I do not belong to you. I am God's property. Leave my life. I disassociate myself from you. I renounce every evil covenant I have ever entered in with you. In the name of Jesus the Christ, I have received salvation. I am a child of God. Amen. Yeah, there's a lot to that prayer. If you take that prayer, and the first thing is that it connects the Holy Spirit to you by receiving the blood of Jesus Christ. And understanding what that means is that Jesus Christ is incarnated. Yeah. So it's not about what would Jesus do, and it's not about how am I going to be treated when I go to heaven or hell. Yeah. It's happening right now. Yeah. And your process of life is going to be extended. You know, how long you live. Yeah. And how much you can give. Yeah. And, you know, the pain and suffering of your boredom and all of those things will be evaporated. And your joy and your happiness will bring life into life. So it'll be abundant for you to be here. Where if this was to happen and you weren't clear of these things and you lived longer, you'd commit suicide. You know, because people are perverted in life, and those impurities give them a sense of impurity. It brings rays, and what would have been virtue turns into a vice. And they have no control over that vice because they are not in charge of these elements that make up their body. And they're holy. But if you treat them wrong, like I say, food is prasadam. Life is prasadam. You have to treat it holy at all times. You can never, ever, at any time, go into a process of a lack of faith. Yeah. And projecting, outcome of horrible scenarios, when with a little bit of calmness, you can come to a better understanding, and it does pass. Life changes. Yeah. So there's a great deal in the process of awakening the second ray in people. And this prayer aligns that, gains that part of relationship, which is really hard for people to receive the empowerment because of churches and other things. People in their mind have biases, so they can only receive what they believe. So the other process is that people receive because they're being blessed. Yeah. So the one who's doing the blessing knows the ignorance exists, which is the cause of the suffering. So the blessing is quite often done without the person knowing or asking for it. Yeah. And in this side of the world, where people are kind of negative, it's, I want to know and, don't, that kind of thing, But where I come from, the only way you get a blessing is when it comes from the one blessing you. Yeah. And that happens by spontaneity. It happens by radiation. You can't block it. You can't, put up a shield or something. And you can think you say words or do certain things, Those create impurities. And they change the attitude or the quality of a possibility of a blessing. Yeah. So I put out the tools and the music and everything so that people can hold this blessing as long as they possibly can throughout a day. Yeah, throughout a period of time. I give soul therapy. If you go into soul therapy, you got an hour of not listening to your shit or someone else's, and you only get me, and you get it inside of a temple, and that is doing an enormous work on you, yeah, and that's because you're receiving a blessing, yeah, you're not asking for it, you're going to get what you didn't ask for, going to get exactly what the Lord needs you to receive, yeah, because in the blessing side, it's all about God, yeah, like in this prayer, thank you for bringing me here, yeah. That allows you to realize, it's not about I signed up to go to soul therapy, or I asked for soul therapy, or I agreed to be here. Yeah. If you listen to that part, thank you for bringing me here. It's not about anything about you agreeing to be here, But there's the darker side of things, to where people betray the energy of the light. And so one moment is good and the next moment is bad. Yeah, so it's really the biggest influence that will happen in this overshadowing process into humanity of receiving the third initiation is that instead of the first two initiation being the hardest thing to go through in world, the hardest thing, they become natural ingredients of what it is when you take an incarnation. They're part of the number system of your life. They're part of the natural ingredients of life. You're born, you turn 7 years old, an event takes place. You can't change it. It just does. It takes place. Then you turn 14 years old, another event takes place. And you can't change it. It just does. Yeah. And by the year 2050, we'll come to better understand this in children as they incarnate and have these very interesting, clear spiritual abilities come out that makes them natural monks and nuns. Yeah? And it'll grow. 2060, 2070, yeah? And throughout all of that, it's not because people incarnated and made a choice. Yeah? It's because they're free. Yeah? They've been freed. And now they're natural influences of, you never knew that you were a peach. Yeah? You never knew that you were a corn. You've always been a weed. Never flowered. Yeah? You never had a fruit. You have no idea what that means. You might even go from this to butterfly. Yeah? All those things are possible, but, suicide is a lot easier. Yeah? Yeah? Rather than passing through enlightenment and many, many incarnations, we're going to give up the thought that we reincarnate. Even though it's in every major book of every master that's ever been written, we're just going to throw those books away. Forget that. That's just a bunch of pagan bullshit. Yeah. Yeah. So it takes time for that healing to take place, where those two initiations are in every single person, but they're turned upside down. Yeah. And they have all your weaknesses of all your personality problems. Every incarnations, everything, problems that you go through are actually those first two initiations manifesting in your incarnation, but never being able to facilitate, so they all come out as glamours. Yeah? There's no achieving. We don't look out into the world and go, wow, look at there, I build a monastery and Jesus is standing there and this is all really something. I'm at the third initiation, yay. Instead, everybody's going, is God dead? You know, which Jesus? You know, who's Buddha? What's a Buddha? I don't know about that, you know. Yeah, we're inside that process. Yeah. So it's that's being healed. Yeah, and once we are healed from that, yeah, then we don't have people like Trump. Yeah. So let's do this one puja and enjoy. I invoke the power, the love, and the wisdom of your ashram, soul, and monad. To guide you into the right activity in the plan. Okay, take a deep breath. I invoke the alignment of the 7 rays. To your 7 chakras. I invoke the alignment of the 3rd ray. To your throat center. I invoke the alignment of the 7th ray. To your sacral center. I invoke the alignment of the 2nd ray to your heart center. I invoke the alignment of the 6th ray to your solar I invoke the alignment of the 1st ray to your crown center. light of the Christ within. I invoke the nature of the Buddha that you are to become. I invoke the mind of the Davic angelic beingness that you can be. I invoke the celestial spheres, the sounds of heaven, the sounds of God, the song of love. I invoke the releasing of the veils of Kundalini on earth. call mankind to dream and visions, to awaken, to live. Okay, and just relax and keep your eyes closed. Just relax, and you can open your eyes and enjoy. All right, so thank you very much for attending. I hope much was learned. It's the same repetitive teaching, but it's in many ways not the same. Yeah, it's all a matter of your consciousness. Yeah, I could repeat this, but I have to say it in so many different ways because every layer of it is like a diamond. Yeah, there's a perfect way of seeing it from. You can look at from different views, and you could see the same teaching from different views if you have a perfect view. Yeah, you're omnipresent. You could see it from all views. That's what I do. That's how I see and teach the way I do. Yeah, so I expect nothing less from everyone. Yeah, that we all reach this principle. Yeah, to where we have the view, a view of every view. Yeah, we are not biased. We are not prejudiced. We are second ray. And with that light comes in, and all the shit we have to look at, we keep a view. And that view gives us a different perspective to allow us not to get caught up in the negative part of the view, but the outcome of the view that you can't see, but your heart allows you to feel and be willing through faith and through courage and through ability of strength. It allows you to make that view happen. Yeah? So it's all in a lighter view, not one that's going to come at you, bam, smack you on the head, and all of a sudden you're going to be smart. Yeah, it's hard work, people. Okay, enjoy. Thank you very much.